Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show on this February 4th, 2020. And glad to have you guys here. Now, I'm going to talk about the virus. Last night I was worried, and I'm still worried today. I'll tell you guys what I'm worried about. This virus is extremely contagious. Instead of looking at the RO number, which I've heard some say it's as high as 4.08. I've heard other classifications that are lower. Instead of looking at that number, what I do is I look back and figure, when did it start? In around early December. How many people have it now? And that basically gives me my own kind of idea of the RO number of it and how contagious it is by how quick it's spreading. And I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's only been a couple months. And look at how far widespread this thing. It's in almost every country on earth. Extremely contagious, in my estimation. So, what are the complications of the disease is what I'm interested in, too. Seems like the greater complications are in the elderly. People 40 and up. Pneumonia is a disease that can take quite a considerable long time that you're incapacitated. In other words, you need care and you can't do anything. You need a bed, you need somebody to take care of you, rather than you take care of somebody else. How many of the people over 40 get serious complications? What's the mortality rate in the people over 40 compared to the mortality rate of the people under 40, and also the serious complications compared to the people that are under 40? You hear some people out there comparing this virus to the flu. I'm not going to make that comparison because this is not the flu. This virus is more closely related. This is a coronavirus. It's not the flu virus. It's more closely related to SARS than it is related to the flu, because SARS is a coronavirus. So, what we have is a situation where it is growing in China, and it seems like they've tracked down a lot of the cases that have occurred in the United States and in Canada, and they've, I guess, isolated them and quarantined them, and they've basically, the numbers aren't going up real fast in North America, which is good news. If they're able to continue to contain it, well, that's up for debate. A lot of the experts say that they don't think they will be able to contain it. And, I mean, time will tell as far as I'm concerned on that factor. I think what it's going to rely upon is how powerful the measures are that they put in place to contain it. But the cat's out of the bag in China, and China's got 1.4 billion people. For these people out there who are saying that this is the flu, this is not the flu, this is a coronavirus. If this was the flu, do you really believe that China would be building temporary hospitals in 10 days? Do you really believe that China would cordon off 57 million people of their own citizens, that they would shut off whole cities to try to contain it if it was just the flu? Do you really believe that? Today I saw pictures of them taking different public places like arenas and stuff and turning them into temporary hospitals. Things like that wouldn't be happening if this was just the flu. This is not the flu, this is a coronavirus. They're very different. The flu and the coronavirus are very different. And one of the big things that concerns me is how this can if this were to get loose, fully start to spread throughout the general population of a country, it's going to shut down that country's healthcare system. It's going to overwhelm it. And this is why the Chinese are building all these new hospitals and stuff, because you're looking at about 20,000 people in Wuhan that have this virus. That's the tip of the iceberg. There's 11 million people in Wuhan. Just do the simple math. Divide 20,000 into 11 million. And you can see that it's just beginning to move through the population. And this is why they're trying to rush these hospitals to completion, because they don't want their healthcare system overwhelmed. But then at the same time, you have to take in a bigger number in China of 1.4 billion people. And you see what a mess that China might be facing. But we over here, we're not completely out of the woods just because there's not very many people that have it. Think about that same kind of a mess coming over here if our government doesn't or is not able to contain it. So this is a virus that either you contain it, or the alternative to that is it'll spread through the general population, and then it's everybody's hands up in the air as to what happens then. You know? Very serious situation we face here. We need to remain vigilant. We need to hope for the efforts of the government in being able to contain this, because this is a very serious disease because of its ability to incapacitate. I've heard lung lesions. That's like having a sore inside your lungs, that this thing can cause lung lesions, along with pneumonia. I heard today that there's a doctor who tried to warn the Chinese people about this virus, and he had a mask, and he came down with it himself, and I heard him say that he could barely breathe. Barely breathe. And that, you know, about the Chinese people, they're not complainers. And he says he can barely breathe. And I saw a picture of him on an oxygen, with an oxygen mask on his face. And he didn't look like a very old man. This is a very serious disease. Its ability to incapacitate the general population could last for weeks or months, with a percentage of the population completely incapacitated with pneumonia. So even if they don't die, they are incapacitated and they need assistance. They're so sick, in other words, that they can't get out of bed to get themselves a glass of water. This is a serious situation. We need to work vigilantly to keep this out of our country. You know? And for these people who out there who say, well, this is just the flu, let it come. No. The more you slow this thing down, the more you put barriers up to slow it down, the better humanity's going to be able to cope. Because if this thing comes suddenly to everyone, and everybody's incapacitated at the same time, then who's going to take care of anybody? If it comes slowly and it gradually comes, then at least we stand a chance of having some people well to take care of the sick. If that makes sense to you guys. It makes sense to me. The more gradual that it comes, I mean, if it's going to come, I mean, if there's no stopping it, then at least slow it down so it doesn't hit everyone at once. These are really hard times we live in. Anyway, there's over 20,000 now people that they're saying have it. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a lot of people that are going unreported because the Chinese have to test and verify for each one of those people that are on the list. And I've heard rumors that they're running out of test kits even to test and verify that the people have it. And the thing is spreading exponentially in China. And I'm thinking to myself that many, many, many more might have it that are going unreported. We might be just seeing the tip of the iceberg, and this might be the reason why they're taking like gymnasiums, football stadium, wherever they can find that's a place that they can put beds in, and they're filling them with beds and making temporary accommodations for sick. Temporary hospitals in China right now are going up. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.